Hello everyone, this is Monica. Welcome to KSR Datavizon YouTube channel. Okay, so in this video, we'll cover most frequently asked questions for DevOps. Okay, so one of the questions are the principles of DevOps. Okay, so we'll see how to answer this question. Right. So when someone asks like an interviewer, like what are the principles of DevOps, we'll start how to answer is like we have four principles of DevOps, which are infrastructure as a code, continuous delivery, continuous deployment, automation, which is a key to success, and finally monitoring. Okay, so we'll see how to elaborate each and every principle here. Right. What is infrastructure as a code? So we'll see the software definition. Infrastructure as a code is a process of managing and provisioning computer data centers through machine readable definition files rather than physical hardware configuration or interactive configuration tools. Right? So there's a basic definition. So I think you guys must not get what exactly is infrastructure as a code when you read this definition, right? So we'll go as a layman term, like if you see the diagram here, a developer creates a code, right? After creating a code, they have to push their code until to the server, right? So here nowadays we have infrastructure on premises and infrastructure in the cloud. So infrastructure on premises, which is using Linux servers, and infrastructure in the cloud is we have AWS and Azure pods, right? So when a developer writes a code and pushes the code, first layer we have as a Git. So in this Git, this code is being stored along with the few files to get the infrastructure provision until to the server, right? So this is configuration file which we have to get this data covered. Okay, so this configuration file is a file where you can create or give the infrastructure specifications, which makes easier for us to edit and distribute this configuration. So in easy terms, we can define the infrastructure as a code as a process of giving the infrastructure details or specifications to execute or build and deploy everything in an automate process, right? So this infrastructure as a code having the specifications of all the infrastructure details to, to deploy until to the server, right? So the next one is continuous delivery and continuous deployment. So continuous delivery is an approach in which teams produce software in a short cycle, ensuring that the software can be reliable, released at any time when releasing the software without doing so manually, right? So continuous delivery means having from starting from the develop stage until the release stage. We have develop, build, automate test, and automate deployment, and then release outside, right? So all these phases has to be covered in continuous delivery, where from test to deployment, there will be some manual way to do this. But in the continuous deployment, we will see as everything is an automate process. Like for example, nowadays the Facebook is having every new update in very short period of time. Let's say in the morning, if they release some update and maybe in the evening they'll do it again. So how is it possible? So how they are doing so frequently and covering with all the stages? So they follow continuous delivery and continuous deployment. Okay, so based on this principle, they are doing their releases too fast, and this also will reduce the speed and the frequency, and the efficiency of getting and giving the new data every day is possible with this continuous delivery. Okay, so here it also aims for building, testing, release software with the greater speed and frequency, as we did now by taking an example of Facebook. Okay, so continuous deployment. Continuous deployment is a software engineering approach in which software functionalities are delivered frequently through automated deployments. Okay, so this is also one of the same as continuous delivery, where it starts from develop, build, test, deploy, and monitor. Okay, the same example of Facebook we are taking, but the difference between the continuous delivery and the continuous deployment is just a small difference. As I told, for continuous delivery, from test to deploy, there will be some manual deployment. Okay, but in the continuous deployment, it is a continuous deployment where there is no manual interruption and there is no manual things to do, where this deployment is also automated, where the configuration file, which we have seen for infrastructure as a code part, so there we will configure our serverless details also to deploy only to those particular servers where this changes has to be affected. Okay. So that is about continuous delivery and continuous deployment. So coming to third one, automation. So as the name suggests, automation, meaning everything has to be done by its own without interrupting or without having a manual hand in it. So automation is the ultimate need of a DevOps practice, and automate everything is a key principle of DevOps. Right? So this is one of the key principle of DevOps, which is automation, which makes each and every organization's work a bit easier or having a less power of humans in doing the things, right? So for this automation process in the DevOps, these are the tools, complete tools, which we use for this one, like coming from the code, coming from planning, code, deployment, operations, monitoring, test, build, etc. So like for automation, these is possible only when we use all these tools in the DevOps. So in clear, we will learn of each and every tools in future. Okay. So this is automation, which is key to success, is one of the principle. But as you know, in DevOps, we have to know the automation features and you have to try to automate each and everything, the work a DevOps engineer do, or it which helps us to give the or represent the code or give the product as early as possible, which has to be a time disruption. Okay, so this is about automation. Coming to monitoring. So if you are doing infrastructure as a if you are following principle of infrastructure as a code and following the principle of continuous delivery and continuous deployment and automation. Yes. Last one is a monitoring, which entails the entire development, entire planning, and entire process which you are doing from starting till end by giving a product, right? So it has to be monitored somewhere. Again, it should not be a human and it should not be a human intention, right? So there should be some tool which has to monitor, and it also should be an automate after deployment. It has to take care about the monitoring also. So DevOps will do that. Like in this principle, we have one monitoring principle which will do it, right? So DevOps monitoring entails overseeing the entire development process from planning, deployment, integration, testing, deployment, and operations. Okay, so once the code is ready, when they push it to build, deploy, and then it will release. So from there, the monitoring work start. So we have infrastructure as a cloud and on-premises also. So in infrastructure as a code of cloud, we have AWS and Azure, where they have their own tools, and they also will use the Nagios and Dynatrace. And on premises also, we can use an Nagios, Dynatrace, Desktop, Liberty, Prometheus, Kibana, Splunk, etc. Okay. So this is about the monitoring. And data involves a complete and real-time view of the status of application, service, and infrastructure in the product environment also. Okay, so this is one of the questions which is covered in an interview for DevOps, like what are the principles of DevOps? So in short, how you have to answer the principles of DevOps. So you can say like we have 4 principles in DevOps, which is infrastructure as a code, continuous delivery, continuous deployment, automation, which is a key to success, and monitoring, where infrastructure as a code, which holds the configuration files so that we don't have to change again and again when a code is deployed simultaneously or parallelly or multiple times. Okay, that is infrastructure as a code. And continuous delivery and deployment, which is a continuous, as the name suggests, it's a continuous process for deployment, code, build, suck, and deployment until the release. Okay, and then coming to automation, we use different tools to automate and the DevOps things for starting from build and then testing and then deployment and then release. So we have to automate each and everything in part of DevOps to release new features each and every day without time consuming. Okay, and coming to last one is monitoring, where monitoring will monitor all this detailed things which has been done starting from development until till release, where it gives a clear report on the performance of either a product or performance of each application which has been used. Okay, so you can answer in this way. So apart from this question, we have many more questions which have been asked in an interview, like basic commands of Linux, because we are using Linux servers also for deployments, and tools used in the DevOps and Docker, Kubernetes, and many more to come. Okay, so we have many questions which has been covered. So, and much more interesting questions and topics will be covered in detail when you come and join us in the KSR Datavizon. So come join us for the DevOps with AWS tutorials and sessions. So for more details, please subscribe to KSR Datavizon YouTube channel. Thank you.